YouTube is packed with advice on making great videos and growing your channel.
And if you can get these three things right, then you're completely off to the races and your channel will explode and you'll become a millionaire.
We've picked 6 pieces of advice that you hear time and time again from YouTube strategists.
If you hook them, they'll keep watching.
So before you film a video, what is the thumbnail, what is the video, and then what's the first 5 seconds, and then what's the first 30 seconds?
But the question is, are these tips good? Are they bad? Or is the truth somewhere in between? To get to the bottom of this, I spoke to 3 different creators who run their own YouTube channels and asked them what they thought about these rules for YouTube.
The key to YouTube is finding recurring attention.
Making sure that every upload we have is like slightly better than the last.
I think the biggest determining factor of whether or not you're going to get views is...
I wanted to know what worked for them and what they recommended to others, as I wanted to learn from those who are out there doing it for themselves and scaling up their audiences. What would you say is, has been your biggest mistake?
Definitely up there with one of my biggest regrets.
There's this rule or around consistency is crucial. Sticking to a schedule, posting every week at the same time will really aid your success on YouTube. What's your opinion on that?
I have some controversial opinions on that because I think that kind of flows into the whole never give up sort of line of thinking.
I don't necessarily think about consistency as a factor in a YouTube channel. I think more about volume. So if you think about why you start a YouTube channel, you want to build attention. And where people fall is that they get attention and that attention then is not recurring.
I think beyond consistency, what's even more important is making sure, and I mean, Mr. Beast himself has said this, making sure that every upload we have is slightly better than the last.
Put more effort into the script. The third one, try to learn a new editing trick. The fourth one, try to figure out a way that you can have better inflections in your voice. The fifth one, try to, study a new thumbnail tip and implement it. The sixth one, try to figure out a new title. There's infinite ways. That's the beauty of content creation online. There's literally infinite ways, from the coloring to the frame rate, to the editing, to the filming, to the production, to the jokes, to the pacing, to every little thing can be improved, and they can never not be improved. There's literally no such thing as a perfect video.
I think never giving up, if you're really committed to making it on YouTube, never giving up at a macro level is really important. I think that gets confused sometimes with never giving up on a micro level. And so what that ends up doing is we see a lot of creators out there just creating the same type of content over and over again. They create 60 different Minecraft Let's Play videos and wonder why their 61st one isn't blowing up. It's well, the classic definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I was having this discussion with a friend of mine just the other day, actually, I think that's another one of the myths on YouTube, is that snowball effect. People think that if you just keep posting, it's just going to gradually exponentially grow like that.
The key to YouTube is finding recurring attention. So finding a format or formats whereby you're going to bring in viewers again and again. I'd rather have 100 recurring viewers than 10,000 one-time viewers. And there are, like we said earlier, a plethora of reasons why you do that. You're better to have 100 true fans than it is to have 10,000 one-time fans. Consistency does play a factor in that, but I don't think the blanket statement, or I actually don't think any blanket statement should be taken seriously when it comes to YouTube. Every channel is completely different.
I could post the worst quality content every day for an entire year, but that doesn't mean my YouTube channel is going to grow if it's not good and nobody wants to watch it. So it's more important. Consistency is important, yes, but it's more important that you're being consistent, but also working to improve in the actual content and the quality of that content.
Well, I do think it's important to, have an element of not giving up and consistency. I would more kind of phrase it as try and stay true to the vision, but you need to still be open to how it plays out, because just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to compound in a linear way is unlikely in my experience, usually.
The next one, you must be a niche over generic to grow a channel successfully.
I actually don't think there's a blanket answer to this.
I think to a degree, yes, there is definitely a benefit in, it's just like in business. There's a benefit in creating sort of this persona around a particular subject or topic so that people know what to expect from you. And in the context of YouTube, I think so that people know whether or not you're worth subscribing to from their perspective.
That's another one of those ones that's like has a lot of nuances. It's a very complicated, nested game. In general, I do think niching is the best idea. The way I have preferred to sort of talk about niching though is usually people think about niching as just, pick a really, really narrow category of content and just create that. The way I think maybe we should reframe to try and think about that concept is create the type of videos that if someone finds one of your videos and they click to your channel, they would also be interested in all of the other videos you post.
When it comes to like niching down, and people say like, oh, I'm developing something in the sports niche or the kind of like YouTube niche or whatever it is, like it's best not to think of YouTube as niches. It's best to think of YouTube as attention markets. Are you in a market that's growing? So, and a market that's growing right now is the topic or the area of AI. That's going to keep on growing and growing over a long period of time. One of my clients wanted to start like a no carb thing, like a diet advice channel. Like looking at the market there, that's declining. So like it's best not to start a market or a channel in that market.
If some days you're talking about cars and then other days you're talking about luxury items and then other days you're talking about makeup, and I'm only interested in one of those three things, like I'm probably not going to subscribe. Markets
aren't like static, they're dynamic. So like the market of health plus data is becoming really big right now at the moment. It's an attention market that people are interested in. So like you're not starting a topic on, Brian Johnson's blueprint. That might be a niche. Like the attention market is a bit broader and it's a bit more dynamic than that. So if you think about YouTube as a marketplace, the commodity being attention, you have what dictates every marketplace. You have supply and demand dynamic.
Next one is about asking the audience to subscribe. What is the most effective way to do that? And is there a particular way or a timing? Is at the beginning, at the middle, at the end, or not at all? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, what I've found is usually I prefer to just have one call to action in my video. In total. It's kind of like for those who are, pretty familiar with marketing or sales, like you usually just want to be encouraging people to do one thing, because if you're trying to tell them to do multiple things all the time, it decreases the likelihood that one thing's even going to get done.
Sometimes people literally need a reminder to do that because they're like, maybe they watch all of your content because it shows up in their homepage and they don't realize that they're not subscribed to you. Having that simple 2 seconds reminder to subscribe, and you don't have to give like a big narrative of like, you should subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Like you can literally, there's one YouTuber I follow who at the end of every video will literally just yell like subscribe at the end. And it's like something as simple as that is enough to trigger in people's head like, oh, maybe I'm not subscribed.
I think the most valuable call to action you can have is to get someone to go watch another one of your videos, usually, assuming the goal is to just get as many views as possible, which I believe is, basically the lifeblood of your channel. But if you're not interested in that, on screen I have another video where I'll show you a pretty unique way to grow your YouTube channel. So for me, I don't even have call to actions to subscribe in videos. My call to action is purely just at the end of a video, go watch another one of my videos, basically. If you were to do a subscribe call to action though, which would make sense if you're, for example, trying to hit a certain subscriber number, and that's more valuable to you at that certain point. For example, maybe when you're trying to get monetized, you're trying to hit that 1,000. I would probably do it at the end of the video, kind of similar to how Mr. Beast does. Like just right at the end of the video, be like, hey, subscribe. And that's pretty much it.
I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something. This is our hardest video ever. Subscribe and you can be one of them.
The other thing I've seen a lot, and this does actually come from Mr. Beast, which is, don't come back to me or don't talk to me until you've done 100 videos, right? So, the 101 video, then look back at the previous 100 and what have you.
All you need to do, this applies to people who have not uploaded videos but have dreams of being a YouTuber, is make 100 videos and improve something every time. Do that. And then on your 101st video, we'll start talking, like maybe you can get some views.
What are your thoughts on kind of that as a benchmark?
I think it's like, obviously if you haven't made a video before, if you go from 0 to 100 videos being made, you're going to be a better content creator by the end of that. But I don't think it's a prerequisite to doing well on YouTube. Many people have proved that. I mean, like one of the clients that I'm working with right now at the moment, like they're a beautiful writer, right? They send me these scripts and they're like, if I was doing my, A levels English essay, it would get 100%. But unfortunately, like it's not YouTubeified. Because YouTube is a very specific market. Now, I'm not saying that it needs to be like crash, bang, wallop, change scenes every second, and there needs to be explosions. But like what I'm saying is that like once you identify your avatar and you have an idea of who it is you're targeting, you then tailor whatever it is you're creating towards that avatar.
I think, sure, there's validity in like the more content you've created, the better you're going to get, and like the better you are at your craft. But I think like that comment in particular has been disproven by people who have been able to monetize their channel after like 3 videos, But if you're, again, like we were talking about earlier, taking the time to really hone in on your craft, I don't necessarily think there's like a specific number of videos that you have to do in order for it to be legitimate.
I actually don't think that's true. I think with a little bit of help, which I think you absolutely do need if you don't want to waste lots of time and money, you can absolutely do well on YouTube, sooner than that.
Yeah, next one is actually we touched on it. The first 30 seconds is the most important part of any video. What are your thoughts on that?
First 30 seconds are incredibly important. Yes, 100%. You need to hook the viewer in. You need to kind of get them to swap from kind of normal view mode to like full screen mode, so they're committed to watching the video. But the most important thing regarding a video and its performance is the idea of the video. Is it remarkable? This is the word that kind of, if me and a few kind of other friends that are pretty deep in this game are starting to use, thanks to Wano, is that if you don't have a remarkable idea that hits a market whereby there's not a content gap, you're not going to do well.
Basically, the idea behind any YouTube video is like, I read the title, I read the thumbnail, and I know whether or not I'm interested in like learning about that topic. And the number one mistake I see a lot of YouTubers make is then spending the first 30 seconds explaining what the video is going to be about. And it's like, I already read the title, I already clicked the thumbnail, you don't need to do that. And so when I first started on YouTube, I would, welcome to today's video, this is what we're going to be talking about, blah, 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 blah. People's attention spans are like 5 seconds. So once they click on the video, you need to like jump right into whatever the topic is.
You could have the best title, you can have the best thumbnail in the world. If the idea doesn't hit a market and resonate with the market, you are not going to do well. And trust me, I've learned this the hard way. In my first channel, like the one that I'm kind of talking about YouTube on, and I regret to think how much money and time I wasted in not focusing fully on the idea before putting 300, 400, 500, 600 euro into a video.
What are your thoughts about deciding or defining the thumbnail and title before even scripting or shooting and editing a video?
I'm very much in favor of it. I always come up with the title and thumbnail before I even create the video. And if I have a video, and this kind of kills me because it's like sometimes I'll have a video that I really want to create, but I can't think of an engaging or interesting title and thumbnail for it, and so I just won't even bother creating it. Because I think the biggest determining factor of whether or not you're going to get views is your idea, and then the way you position or the way you present that idea to the world is through your packaging, so your title and thumbnail. And then your retention following that is kind of dictates how far that video can scale.
I wish I did it earlier. Okay, like when I first started YouTube, I did Ali Abdal's part-time YouTuber Academy. One of I spent a lot of money on YouTube education, and the one thing that always came up was do your title and thumbnail before you do the video.
So you'll probably get hundreds, if not thousands, of views if you have an amazing idea, title, and thumbnail. Even if your content is actually terrible, chances are though that video is not going to, get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of views.
I thought I did it. I'd be like, okay, like I'm going to make a video. Do you know what? I'm going to give you a perfect example. I'm robbing this from a guy called George Blackman, but I saw it on his newsletter. It's really good. I want to make a video on the Hiroshima bombing. Okay, that's the first thought that comes into anyone's head, right? I'm going to make a video about X. Okay, if you make a video about the Hiroshima bombing, you write a script and then you come up with a title and thumbnail at the end. Okay, that's grand, right? But if you think about it in 3 different ways, right? The first way is, okay, what if I do the title as, you know, why did the Hiroshima bomb happen? Okay, that is something I can figure out in a Google search. Okay, nobody's going to watch a 10-minute video about that. And if you frame the video about that and you have a video edited, it's already too late. You've already made a dud video. Like, that's not going to perform well, even if you've gotten Hayden Hillier-Smith to edit the video. Next way you could frame it is like, what happened before, after, or during the Hiroshima bomb? That is quite vague. I think I already know the answer to that. Japan is doing fine now. Like, so like, I'm kind of a little bit like, you know, so if you frame the hook as that, like, again, it's not going to work. Whereas if you decide to frame it as, you know, why isn't Hiroshima a nuclear wasteland? That is opening up, you know, a plethora of questions. Like, you know, like, why is it different to Chernobyl? Like, yeah, like, what's the science behind it? How is it actually doing now versus like how it was doing before? Are there radiation leaks? But the hook, the title, and the thumbnail for that topic, even though you're talking about essentially what, like, the same thing, it's completely different. And if you don't deliver on that in the first 10 seconds, why isn't Hiroshima a nuclear wasteland? You are, like, to put it blankly, wasting your money and wasting your time on the video.
Because a lot of the time it can be really easy to fall into the trap of like looking at our thumbnail in Photoshop and being like, oh wow, that's really eye-catching. It's like, yes, it is in Photoshop on a blank background with no competition. How eye-catching is it when you compare it to all of the other similar videos that people could be clicking on? If it still is eye-catching at that point, then yeah, that's a good thumbnail. Most of the time, most thumbnails don't pass that test.
So finally, you know, you've obviously been on this journey and learned a lot of things, and I'm sure made lots of mistakes, of course. You know, as a creator, what would you say is, you know, has been your biggest mistake, you know, and with that in mind, you know, what is your kind of number one or preferred piece of advice for anyone looking to grow their channel?
I suppose there are 2. Like, I'm touching a wooden table right now. Like, I'm very lucky. I don't have any like big regrets in my life, but definitely up there with one of my biggest regrets is not starting YouTube earlier. Like, I am 28 right now, and I wanted to start a YouTube channel when I was 18, and I am, like, genuinely, it actually pains me how I left it so long to start a YouTube channel. Or to start learning YouTube and content, because it's so important in general. So that is the biggest mistake that every creator makes. It didn't start early enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of it touches on things we've already spoken to earlier, but really just this idea of not getting too caught up in what like you think as the creator is the best idea, and really paying attention to things like your analytics, the comments people are leaving on your video, the feedback that people are giving you. And really, analytics are feedback, essentially. And taking that as an opportunity to change what you're doing and to experiment with different things. I think for so long, I was like set in, I'm building a channel teaching about XYZ, and I don't care if it takes me 5 years to grow this channel. Like, this is how I'm going to do it.
I think right now for me, the thing that for my current channel that I'm focusing on, I think, has been video ideas. So I've talked about that a couple of times in this chat, but it just keeps being hit home to me how important the actual idea is. So like, I just spent the other week, like the entire week, just researching ideas, coming up with ideas, and like, you know, full time, you know, 40 hours a week kind of thing. Came up with like 70 different ideas that weren't just like out of my head, but like actually researched ideas and narrowed them down and like broke them all down a spreadsheet, the pros and cons of each one, and, you know, ended up with like 10 ideas from that. And I think that's, at the time, it feels unproductive because it's like, oh, I could be creating content. And for some people it can be, because for some people that can be an excuse just to procrastinate. But for me, like, I know that I can take action. I've taken action in the past.
I wish I got help earlier, because I could have, let's just say I spend a lot of money on courses, right? And courses are grand, but they're very generic. Like, all of these myths and all of these like pieces of advice that people give you, there is nothing more valuable than personalized feedback. I think that anyone that gives you blanket advice for YouTube, like, I don't personally agree with that philosophy, because every channel is completely different. Like, you may want to do, like, you know, Mr. Beast type thumbnails, but if you're targeting dads who, you know, want to help their kids, like, they're two completely different videos. So like, that kind of context isn't good. So what I would say is, I wish I got personalized help quicker.
And then once I was more open to the idea of like, okay, let's experiment with a few different things and kind of see what sticks, that's when things really started to shift for me. And so really maintaining an open perspective and just being willing to try things. And you know what, some things you try are not going to work. And just remember, like, nobody is paying as close attention to you as you think. So even if you feel embarrassed, it's like, whatever, nobody's going to remember by tomorrow. There's 7 million other YouTube videos that they're watching already. So
that's hard advice to apply to everyone as well, because like we talked about earlier, you kind of have to go through that process of making content, figuring out your creative intuition, and improving your quality through quantity and practice. But for me, one of the most recent mistakes, like I said, that I made was, I think I was spending too much time creating and not enough time trying to be strategic about how I was creating.
And like, that's the primary reason that I'm doing this now. I don't have a course, because like, I think that it's very hard to give real, tangible, good information to people in a blanket course. That's why I work with people one-on-one, because I think it's the only way to tangibly get some real valuable impact, and like it's showing, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would have gotten help earlier.
So really just having that willingness to look at your own content, be willing to pivot, and just understand, like, okay, sometimes I got to cut my losses. I thought this was going to take off and it didn't. Wah. It's sad because I was really interested in that thing, but it's whatever. On to the next one.
From the 3 creators, here are my key learnings. Firstly was the quality of the idea.
The most important thing regarding a video and its performance is the idea of the video. Is it remarkable?
Secondly, I was simply overwhelmed with the amount of information on YouTube on growing a channel, some of it good and some of it bad. And we saw from the creators that they have different approaches on what worked for them. But if you take those tips from the creators and apply it to your own channel in your own unique way, then I'm sure you'll be successful in growing your own channel. Big thanks to Darragh, Marcus and Danielle to help us create this video. I'll be leaving links to their channels in the descriptions below. If you like this video, then you might want to check this one out. I'll see you in the next one.